Centres of excellence such as the Advanced Therapy Treatment Centres, which we're going to make in the UK and in the process of setting up, I think the advantages that they can bring for patients for the delivery of ATMPs is they really understand the end-to-end situation. These products quite often start with the starter material from the patient, which then has to be delivered to a manufacturer, manufactured, it then has to be shipped back for delivery at the hospital. And all of that coordination is quite complex. So a real understanding of what's required for the patient, their ability to be able to be at the centre, and for the developer of the product to actually understand the centre and what they're able to deliver and the timeline that they're able to deliver to, I think is critical. In terms of what's important for those centres, then I think there's a real understanding of the patient journey, and I think that's quite an important thing. And they can bring, having an expert centre, a centre of excellence, will actually really understand that patient journey. So in terms of the Advanced Therapy Treatment Centres, I think there's a real learning from both the developers and the centres, and they can both influence one another and help each other to learn. I think what I've heard is that for a centre to be good and a good adopter of these Advanced Therapy Treatment Centres, they have to be flexible in their thinking and show a willingness to learn. What I've heard vice versa is from the centres is that a good developer will listen to the centre and will understand what the centre is able to deliver, both in terms of timelines but also the area of expertise, and also what they might need the product to be delivered in, for instance. There's no point giving a surgeon something that he or she can't open in the theatre. So they can learn from each other. Also, I suppose what they can learn is the patients are very engaged with the centres quite often, especially for rare diseases and some of these life-threatening conditions. And what the developers can learn from that is that the centres really understand what the patient's concerns are, and they can adapt their treatment modality for that. So I think there's shared learning from both sides. So in terms of GMP capability of these centres, I think many of the therapies, in fact most of the therapies, will be delivered from the manufacturers themselves at a discrete site. For any manufacture that has to happen in the centres, then of course that will have to align with EU requirements. So the usual grade B category if it's a clean room. So I see that there will be a close alignment between the centres and the manufacturers. Likewise, if there's a final preparation step, then that actually will be set by the manufacturers, and the centres will simply follow their SOP. So it will be part of the GMP process. So they'll be very, very closely aligned. So, and then, a consideration there is the skill set that there are at the centres. There's a multifaried skill set at these centres. There may be a lacking of clinical skill sets, but there might also be a lacking of manufacturing skill sets. And that's something that Innovate UK and the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund has directly tackled. So there's a training element, £1.5 million for a capability training for an apprenticeship scheme for manufacturing staff, and also in the Advanced Therapy Treatment Centres we've got a large amount of training capability being built in, and not just the Advanced Therapy Treatment Centres, but there's also the London centres for advanced therapy delivery, and they're also looking at training. So we're trying to do a coordinated UK training programme. So I think it's really important that we have skills trained staff both on the clinical side and on the manufacturing side. Another role that we have for the Advanced Therapy Treatment Centres is the education of patients, and vice versa, the education of the centres and the developers by the patients who are at the centres. So I think it's critical that we do spend time, and the Advanced Therapy Treatment Centres are spending time developing that patient network and seeking patient engagement, because through that we will really understand the patient journey and what they're able to do, and what the developers might see as an improvement in the quality of life from their point of view might be entirely different from what a patient might need. For instance, if you're looking at developing a therapy for muscular dystrophy, then the developer might aspire to having someone walking, whereas actually if it's a young man and being able to use his hands properly to be on a computer and perhaps take part in a job. You know, that's a real patient improvement, which if we engage with the patients, we'll start to understand that more fully, and we're hoping that the Advanced Therapy Treatment Centre network will actually pull that knowledge in and help the developers understand the patient journey. And another consideration for these therapies is the follow-up of the patients, the long-term follow-up of the patients. Quite often, it could be 15 years for a gene therapy, and I heard last night there was a 50-year follow-up for one product. So I think it's really important that the centres and the network start to develop this patient registry, and we're looking at that. There's an excellent model in Italy where the IFA have a patient follow-up registry, so that's one model. There's also one being developed in Japan. So it's something that we're actively looking at and looking to see how we might be able to do that in the UK. But of course, drawing upon the registries that are already in place. So EBMT has been looked at by the European Medicines Agencies for CAR-Ts, and there's things like haemophilia registry. So we're looking at what's already there and seeing how we can build on it for the whole network.